Just like the shirt says, gorgeous ladies of wrestling. We're going to talk all things Glow today because joining us is a Glow original. A, a good friend of mine, because I spent a lot of time with her in the last 2 weeks. Her name is April, the Royal Hawaiian. April, welcome back to the
Thank
show.
you, Mike. You
It's so
know,
funny.
it's stuff that could always happen, so I'm always flexible, and sometimes it's the recording on and sound or something else, but this isn't the first time, so not a
So
problem.
this is our second time recording this. We had such a great
Yes.
conversation last week, and my audio is just terrible. So April was nice enough to join us a second time, and we're going to talk all things
Yeah.
Glow. Thank you again.
No problem at all, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's back up to the beginning. How did you first get involved in Glow?
Well, I was an actress in Hollywood. I was an athlete as a kid. I grew up between two brothers. I was a tomboy, and I was in college, and I was also working, and I worked in Hollywood. And my agent was Bob Yanis, who was partners with Jeff Bridges, who was Todd Bridges' dad from Different Strokes. And so they worked right across the hall. I worked in a secretarial service, and my boss, Marianne, was very supportive of what I was doing. She knew that I was in Hollywood to be close to the action, if you will. I worked right between Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard on a side street. Yeah, so I was like right in the heart of Hollywood. And so they just let me know. They said, we got this call for a television pilot. And they didn't say what it was for. And they didn't have any information other than they're looking for girls, all walks of life, all different sizes and colors and ethnicity. And the one thing they did say was if you have an athletic background, it would be a plus. So I said, cool. I said I played basketball and softball in high school. When I started sports back in the early 70s, they didn't have sports for girls. So I was the first girl in the San Gabriel Valley to play boys Little League baseball. So
Wow.
I basically started between my two brothers. I have a brother that's 14 months older than me and a brother that's 14 months younger. And then my sister came 6 years later. So it was really the three of us. And so I played, on the same team as one of my brothers because they had majors and minors and what have you. So I played, and that's how I got started and involved in sports and then basketball. And so when this came out, we went to the Hyatt Hotel on Sunset in Hollywood, and there was 1,000 girls. A big wrestling ring in the middle of the room, and David McLean and Matt Simber were there. And David gets up and says, thank you everybody for coming. You are all here for an all women's wrestling league, and we're filming a TV pilot. Well, a third of the girls got up and left. Oh, I'm not breaking a nail. I'm not going to get hurt. I mean, some of them even went as far back as got their headshots back. And we're like, I'm not wasting it. That's right. And so I was in for the long haul because I'm like, well, this is what I'm here for. They said TV pilot. It didn't say what it was about. So I was in, and I figured, I have no clue to what's going on, but I will stay as long as
Yeah.
they
You
need.
got nothing to lose.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. And so at that audition, they basically just said, you can see they got the big ring in the middle of the room. And they said, we're going to have some of you come up. We're going to show you, see if any of you have any experience. I was also a cheerleader. I started, like with Pop Warner football. I was a cheerleader. I think I was 6 or 7 when my brothers were playing football. And so I started then. And then I went up to like junior high. I was a cheerleader and drill team and all that. Then when I was in high school, I was a JV cheerleader and a varsity cheerleader. And so I had the tumbling background, gymnastics. I wasn't the greatest, but I had the ability. And so that, of course, was helpful because they asked us, can you do some tumbling or can you do any, cartwheels or flips and stuff like that? So, of course, those of us that could got in the ring and just did a couple, rolls and stuff like that. And then they kind of just showed a little bit about what was involved. And then they went through and interviewed us. And they said, well, we'd like to do some quick little screen test type things. We want you to interview. We're going to just put the camera on, and can you just tell us a little bit about you? Maybe, the 12 characters that we're looking for, we need a Royal Hawaiian. So if we were to say, hey, could you do the Royal Hawaiian? What would you do? Tell us something about you. And so, of course, I did. I started dancing when I was 5, and I started with flamenco dancing in Boyle Heights, right in the heart of East LA. I basically was born and raised in Chavez Ravine. So I was a Dodger. I was born in Hollywood and I was raised in Chavez Ravine, right down the street from Dodger Stadium. So I was born a Dodger. I bleed blue till this day. So that's where I was. And then my parents, we migrated east. And so I grew up and I actually went to school both at the community college at East LA City College and then at Cal State LA, which is right in East LA. And so I got the dancing experience from there. And at 6, I turned to hula. And then I lived in Hawaii for 25 years. And, you know, I learned all the good and bad things to learn in Hawaii on Waikiki Beach because my uncle had a boat there and they did all the touristy kind of things. But that's where I learned to surf and paddle a canoe and sail a boat and, you know, get involved with the boys and, you know, the good and the bad. And so I had all the background for the Royal Hawaiian. So when they told me that, I just, you know, let me talk about everything I can and just, you know, show my personality and let them see what, you know, what could I do or what could the Royal Hawaiian potentially look like. And so at the end of it, I made the cut. And I don't even know how many girls they selected to continue. But overall, at the end of that 1,000 girls, they picked 2 girls, and one was Hollywood, and then the second was myself. So we were the 2 that were selected for that particular audition. Then they had a bunch of interviews and auditions to come up with the rest of the 12. So they had the 12 original characters.
So you didn't have the job yet, though. You just moved on to the next
No,
round of. Okay.
Exactly. So we were just kind of just moving on. And so then they had probably a group of about maybe 35, 40 girls. And then we moved on to the wrestling phase to start training with Mondo Guerrero from the Guerrero dynasty. Right?
That's royalty.
So that was amazing, right? And in itself, right, just that experience. And I had no wrestling background at all. So the only thing I knew was collegiate wrestling because in high school, my buddies were wrestlers. And then, of course, I knew the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ravishing Rick, all those guys that used to wrestle at, you know, the Olympic and the sports arena and that kind of thing. But I was by no means into wrestling, didn't have any background. So this was all new to me. But like they said, fortunately, having an athletic background and then all the other things I had done through my life up to that point were beneficial to me. So we did the training and it was in Watts in this not so great area. So it was, you know, kind of one of these things where when we got there, David McLean was like, okay, all the girls get in. We trained at night, you know, and then he even hired a couple of the guys from the biker bar downstairs to become like security for us, you know, and that was kind of a better situation. And then as we did the training, it, you know, got fewer and fewer girls to where you could tell, okay, there's a couple that look like they could be the California Doll, a couple that could be Spanish Red, a few that could be the Royal Hawaiian, you know, they had, you know, so we're seeing the girls and then every day we would go back, we would see less and less. Oh, that other girl I thought was maybe going to be who I was vying for the Royal Hawaiian against, she's gone, you know, so that was a good plus for me. And
you think it was from you think it was from the physicality? They didn't realize how hard pro wrestling really was?
You know, I really knew because I'm an athlete, or I had been, that I figured it would be, you know, some hard training and definitely was going to take some, you know, I mean, just stunt type work that, you know, that was one of the things that Mondo stressed was the safety and being able to train and teach us what to do, how to do, so no one got hurt. And one of the things that did happen, and we do talk about it at different interviews or conventions when we do a panel, and if we're lucky enough to have him come with us, he could tell the story live. But he basically would give us instructions, and then, you know, there's a group of girls, and some of us are in the ring, some are on the other side of the ropes on the apron, and he's trying to talk about what it is we're going to go over and this and that. And some girls are chatting over here, some are over here, some are not paying attention, some are really focused. And then he says, you know what? These girls are not paying attention. I need them to focus, otherwise someone's going to get hurt.
Someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah, he grabs the closest girl next to him, puts her in a headlock, puts her in a sleeper hold, knocks her out, and she passes to the floor. And everybody is just like, what the heck? This is nuts. And he says, oh yeah, she was flip-flopping like a fish until she just dropped. And so at that point, he had everybody's attention, right? So he said, okay, you see that? That's what's going to happen if I don't get your guys' attention and you don't pay attention, because if you don't and you don't see what I just reviewed, someone's going to get hurt if you do something wrong. And it's true. I mean, it's like anything else you're learning, you miss a step, that's where you're going to run into either problems or, hey, I don't remember doing that, or I don't remember, whatever. And that was the priority. His thing is I got to teach you. I need you to get it. And I need you guys to be safe when you're wrestling with each other, to make sure that you guys can handle the moves, set each other down safely, and what have you. So that was an event during the training that everybody was like, holy moly, this is serious.
Wow.
He's serious. So we did like about 3 months of training until we went to Vegas to the Riviera Hotel. And that's where we filmed the first episode, what was the pilot, for us to sell the show first, then which became episode 1 of the brand new season in 1986.
So when they sign you, what do they offer you?
We didn't really know, because initially the initial 12, because they signed us for the pilot. So we had a temporary or an episode contract, so to speak, to actually go to Vegas and do the pilot. Then once the pilot was sold, then it was now we can say, okay, it's been sold. We know there's a season 1. Now we got to sign contracts for season 1. And so with that, for myself, and like I can only really speak for myself, is that when I signed up, they offered me Royal Hawaiian. Then when we were in Vegas for the pilot, I basically had been around Hollywood a little bit. And so I had an experience with the things you hear that happen in Hollywood with casting couches and all those kinds of things that now are very well aware of, with all the things that have come out, with all the names and, people that have been involved in these kinds of things. I went day 1 when I got to Vegas for the pilot, and I talked to Matt Simber, the director, and David McLean, the producer. And I said, I'm young. I said, but I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, and I'm here to work. I'll give you 150%. I'll do what needs to be done for the show to make it a success. But don't ask me to go to see what a casting couch looks like in your eyes. Take me to your room unless the rest of the girls are following right behind me. We had the penthouse for different events and this and that. I said, as long as everybody's there with me, I'm good to go. I'm not interested in doing anything, behind the scenes, if it's not really behind the scenes and in front of the camera pertaining to the show. I said, that's it. So I nipped it in the bud from day 1, never had a problem. Didn't get my butt grabbed, didn't get no propositioned, none of that. Nothing happened. But at the same time, then they asked me, after watching how I worked for the pilot episode, they said, could you do a second character? We would like you to be Sarah of the Sarah and Mabel tag team. And I said, sure, the Hillbillies. And then Mabel was played by Ashley Cartier, Nadine. And so the two of us had the 2 roles. And then in addition to that, they asked me if I would be one of the trainers for the new show. So the girls that were hired, which we helped get those girls because they had to be trained, and then we had to select and say, okay, this one's working, this one's not, that one gets it, that one doesn't, this one fits a character, that one, whatever. So we were part of the production staff. So while the rest of the Glow Girls were sitting by the pool, going to the gym, going to the movie, doing all the
working.
We were working because we had to work with the staff, the director, the producer, the writers, all of that, the crew, to figure out, okay, who's going to work, who's going to be able to handle more than just a tag team match, who now can take on a singles match, who's not making it, who do we need the writers to help? Because with my character, it was perfect. I didn't have to do a whole lot of anything because it was like my lifestyle. Like they just said, go ahead, create a character. They said the only two things they gave me was you will be the Royal Hawaiian and you are a heel. And I said, great. They said, run with it. Decide, come up with the gimmick, come up with some ideas, create a character, run it by us. We'll tell you yay, nay, or whatever. But I never got handed a script. They never had to write for me. Anything that we ever did, whether it's on camera, on an interview, on a print, whatever, was all my idea. They gave me the go ahead to run with it. Those girls that could do that, they let us do it. And they didn't know exactly what we were doing either, right? This was all new. David McLean had a great idea. Matt Simber was the creative sources for Glow becoming a wrestling, hee-haw, laugh-in, variety type wrestling sports entertainment show.
Right.
So that's what I did. I came up with the pineapples, crushing the pineapples, developing the character. I mean, whenever you saw me, I was screaming and yelling in the camera and someone's face and whatever. And I got to do all those promos were off the cuff. So they'd say, okay, Mondays is so-and-so, 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 this half of you is going to cut promos today. They would come and tell me, okay, your matches this week are going to be this one and this one. All we need you to do is tell us what's going to, happen. We knew kind of a storyline basis, and then that's what we would do is we would just go off. So all of mine were just show up, do them. Some girls couldn't do that. So the writers would have to write them a script, give them the script a week ahead of time for them to rehearse, study those lines, and then come in front of the camera and do their thing. So it was just a little bit different depending on what was going on, but it was fun because for me, I just got to be, this crazy character and, say and do whatever I felt was natural and what was going with the, storyline as it developed. So that was fun.
So when you wrestle a regular match, at a show, you're told, okay, you have 12 minutes, whatever. When you do it for Glow, you're doing it for a television show. Are you told a time? Are you go out there, you have a match, and they edit it down to a certain time? Like, how long does it take to film a wrestling match for a television show?
Well, back then, because you figure this was 37 years ago, so we didn't have the technology they have today. Plus, ours was not like today's Netflix Glow show, where Chavo Guerrero, who is Eddie Guerrero, the Guerrero dynasty, wrestler himself, and now also stunt coordinating. Those girls learned how to wrestle based on a script and a cut and okay, action, okay, cut. So Mondo taught us the fundamentals from the bottom up. Chavo was lucky enough for those girls. They only got trained in the certain things that they needed to learn in order to do those wrestling moves in those series episodes where they can cut and shoot, right? For us, we had a long, full 2 hour, if that's what it took, show on Saturdays at 1 o'clock in the Riviera Hotel with a live audience. So we did not have, the ability to cut or if we screwed up. It was just a constant. So if our match was going to be 15 minutes, we were wrestling for 15 minutes. And so we had choreographed and we did have a beginning, a middle, an end. Those are the things that had to be in there. Now, if we ended up adding something or ad-libbed or screwed up and went back and tried it again, we had the ability to, okay, let's do something. Okay, we figured it didn't work so well. Let's just come around again and maybe go for, the same thing again so that they could get it on camera, right? Because we didn't have the leisure to cut and shoot. It was up to the camera crew to get what they could. And then after the fact, when they cut and pasted, if you will, or we had to do voiceovers after the fact because they had certain stuff that they wanted to highlight once they saw the finished show and they were cutting and pasting, right? So then we would go into the studio and they would add voiceover or dialogue or whatever to actually enhance the actual episode. And so then that's when we were able to do that, where they could cut it down or add more interview, like the little bubble things you see of them putting up there with interviews while the match is going on. If they needed time to stretch, then they could add some more of those or put in something else in between to get to that length that they needed. But we didn't have the leisure to cut and paint, to cut action, cut, okay, redo, and what have you. So this was a live show like what you see when you go like to WrestleMania. They don't, what you see on TV is live, and it's what
Right.
is actually happening. They aren't cutting and pasting and putting the highlights the way they want it to be, but so that's how that kind of worked. And it worked for us. And there were lots of times where there were things that went wrong. I know during one show, all of a sudden you see the show goes completely black. So the screen just goes dark. And what had happened, one of the girls was running through the back and tripped over the outlet.
Oh, man.
And of course, what it was the main electrical source to all the lighting and electrical. So she fell, she tripped and figured, and the lights all went off, and we lost any light or anything for, a few seconds. And then they just plugged it back in. So, those kinds of things you'll see happen, but people never know what actually happened,
Right.
So, stuff happens. It's a live show.
So you did just the first season, correct?
Yes. So I did the pilot and then the first season, and I actually got injured quite a few times. So, but the kicker was when I injured my back. So when I did the back problem, I actually left Vegas, went to LA to see a doctor there. And then when they said no, they said, it's pretty bad that you will need surgery. And it was 2 herniated discs. And that was, so you figure that was in 1980, probably 86, 87. And then they asked, are you thinking of having a family and having kids? And I said, well, what do you mean? You mean having babies? And they're like, well, yeah, do you plan on having kids? And I said, well, I hope so. But I mean, what do I know now? I'm in my early 20s. And as it is, I didn't get married till I was 31 and got pregnant. My first pregnancy, I was 33 years old. So I said, what do I know at 22,
Right.
And I said I would. And they said, well, then we don't suggest that you go back to doing this kind of physical, work if you want to do that. And then as it is, I ended up going after I got hurt. I ended up going on to work a regular job with United Airlines. And I was exposed to toxic chemicals at the office we worked in. A bunch of my coworkers, but about 56 of us had a lawsuit together against United Airlines. And if you've seen the movie Aaron Brockovich, we actually were like an Aaron Brockovich too. We had the same attorneys, Masri and Vidido, and we had the same doctors in Beverly Hills. And it was this big old thing. It was supposed to be a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I lost 2 babies. There was about 2.5 dozen women that also had either miscarriages, stillbirths, birth defects, and they wanted to say it was just a coincidence. I said, oh, sure, a group of 250 employees, and you're going to have a large group like that, and it's a coincidence. We had one employee die. My mother suffered a stroke. She also worked with me there. We had several employees, with all these just new ailments out of the blue, people who had never been sick before. And so, it turned into this big old thing, which never became public. United basically shut the lid on that. They filed bankruptcy in Chicago, which is where the headquarters is located. They went to the bankruptcy court, asked to have our case thrown out. They're the biggest employer in Chicago. The courts threw it away and we got zip. And there's now a few people that have passed away. And I had the problems with I never had any more kids after that. So it was definitely a thing where, I can't really say how much of each situation contributed, because the doctors did tell me in regards to the wrestling, because it is your back, you would need that if you're going to bear children. And then because of the exposure, there was a definite connection to that. So it was an unfortunate, part of my life that was not good. Everybody asked, well, would you do Glow again, knowing that today, here I am, 37 years later, dealing with 24/7 chronic back pain, neck pain from my wrestling injuries. would you do it again? And I say in a heartbeat, because it was just a great time, a fun time in my life. I mean, here I am. I did have a regular job with United for 25 years, but here I am 37 years later, still working in the wrestling industry, talking to people like you who are still interested in hearing our story, and the wonderful fan base we have. We have fans all over the world who would die to get anything in their hands glow related. So I'm happy to again say that we still have continued projects. This weekend was very, very good for me, being at the convention for 3 days. I did have Roxy with me on Sunday, which was a blast, and she had a great time, and we had a lot of fun and made a lot of good connections, and have got some good things that are coming out of things that we've both been working on, different projects, and have met some new people that are interested in doing some things. So it was a great weekend overall, just being able to see everybody and go back in time. And that's why I have my voice is a little hoarse. I've been talking, glow and wrestling nonstop for 4 days. And, it does get taxing after a while because it's just nonstop. They want to talk, tell us their stories, share stories with us, hear about stories. And um, Ivory came by too to see the booth, to see me at the booth. And I was there with United Wrestling Council. So want to give a shout out to them for having me at the booth and at Wrestle on that weekend. And that would be Manny Pinson and Favi Chulo, who also does the United Wrestling Council podcast. So I was lucky enough to snag in for a quote Ivory in WWF, and she did an interview for us in the booth.
Nice.
So if you want to hear that, you can go on to the United Wrestling Council website. They're located here in LA and Hawaiian Gardens is where they have their events. And there's an interview with Tia Ferrari, Ivory on their website for their podcast.
What can you tell me about the Netflix series for Glow?
The Netflix show. It is loosely based on us.
Loosely.
And, a lot of the girls a lot of the girls had mixed feelings because they didn't feel that it was portrayed like our show. And it was to it, but then because Netflix is out to sell,
Right.
viewers, get viewers and sell shows and what have you. So sex sells. Well, our director, remember, was not a druggie like Mark Maron plays on the show. And there was a lot. Our show was a family show. You could come to our show any week, and we had tons of kids. When Glow went on the road touring to the different cities across the country, our show was filled with kids. So it's definitely a different vibe, if you will, to where not to say that it didn't get viewers, and a lot of our fans all loved it, because if there's anything Glow, they're in. So
Right.
I just tell the younger kids that they'll have to watch Glow Netflix when they're at high school. And she said, my sister and I used to watch you every Saturday.
That's awesome.
And it was like clockwork. Just that was our show. Yeah. And so it was loosely based, but again, the show for Netflix came about, and I call it the Hollywood story. The girl that owns the name Glow, who is the only girl who made any money on that, she made millions, was Babe the Farmer's Daughter, Ursula Hayden. All the other girls, there was approximately 74 of us, and none of us made a penny. So Ursula, the Farmer's Daughter, was having an affair with Rickless, and so she ended up saying, I want the name Glow. I want the show. So you either do that and give me what I want, or I go to your wife and the media. So he right away went to Matt Simber and said, cut it off. No more show. Well, we did the documentary in 2012. Then we had the award ceremony in 2017 at CAC. The documentary is an award-winning documentary. People saw that. The producers from Orange is the Black for Netflix saw our documentary and said, we need to make a show about those girls. So they did. So Ursula then went and negotiated to lease the name Glow for 2 years. Now, if it were me, which it wasn't, I would have said, okay, I'll lease it to you for 2 years. You need to get, because they asked, were we consulted at all in any way, shape, or form for the Netflix series? Not at all. But we had other trainers that worked through the 4 seasons. We had key characters that were still available today that could have done consulting or giving you some background. And then when they wanted our characters, they wanted us to give them our characters without, she wanted us to sign releases for nothing, no pay. Are you nuts? I mean, Glow gave me the character Royal Hawaiian, and I developed that. That's my character. Why am I going to sign my life away, give you Royal Hawaiian, and you don't even want to pay me a penny? I don't think so. So they had to come up with like characters. So their Britannia is a combination of Godiva and Zelda the Brain. Put them together. There's others where you could see, okay, yes, the key characters, Liberty Bell is Americana, and Zoya is Nuchka, and the storylines and all of that. So you will see storylines that are like us from Original Glow and a combination of the characters, but you will never see an original Glow girl character used in Netflix Glow. But it didn't matter to fans because to them, the 80s were a time like no other, and all they were interested in is anything Glow, they were happy to see. So, and that's how it is today. And we give them props. Everybody loves a show. I shouldn't say everybody, but a good amount of our fans and the girls do like it. And it's just different. That's the thing. It's definitely different. It's a good thing. It gave us a resurge to come back out and to continue, promoting the Glow brand. And that's what we're still doing today. So there's a good handful of us that still go out and do events and Comic Cons and wrestling events and live indie shows and things like that.
How do you want Glow to be remembered? How do you want the fans to remember the original show?
Well, now today we are hearing a lot of, when people do talk about us, they say we're the legends and the trailblazers. And that's always a compliment. And it's an honor to have been part of that group that was able to bring female wrestling to the world. So I would just say, when you think of Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, is that we were the ones who were able to break the barriers and move into a male dominated sport and bring that to the world. Female wrestling is amazing today, that it was something that helped in different areas of life, just not just the wrestling for women or the sports, but just as a whole. And hopefully, people look at us and say, we remember those girls, those were the girls that started wrestling back in the 80s, and it was a good thing. And we do have people tell us that, you were a major part of my childhood being what it was. And those are great and happy memories today. So that's always just, a compliment that we love to hear over and over. And we thank our fans, and, it's something that I will continue to do. And, people ask, well, why do you do it? I'm retired. I'm single. I said, what? I'm going to sit at home and crochet and watch TV or something? I said, I get to go out and travel the world, new people, and some of the fans that have been watching us for 37 years. So I will continue to do it until I can't anymore. So you guys have me around until that day happens. And today is supposed to be, I think, either day 11 or 12 of my Roxy Challenge, which is turning 60. So I will turn 60 on April 25th, and I will be at VWC, Valley Wrestling Connection, for Monday Night Mayhem in Marietta, California. We'll be celebrating my 60th birthday at a wrestling show at the Rollertainment Center in Marietta, California. So if you guys have nothing to do that Monday night, come on out and celebrate my birthday with me. And I've got a couple other things going on. And just check out my social media. I like to post whatever I can on there. I will be at the United Wrestling Council event on April 30th in Hawaiian Gardens. So if you're in the area at the end of the month, that's where I'll be. And I've got some things coming up for May. I think one Long Beach that I'm thinking of doing if I'm available. It's SCS, Squared Circle. Gosh, you guys, I'm this is all off the top of my head. I usually make notes. So check that out. It'll be May 19th. Always check my page, social media for Facebook. There's a fly or something here. Facebook and Instagram. And then I'm supposed to be in Florida in Jacksonville in June 11th, maybe Rhode Island, maybe Jersey. So just keep checking my pages, and I'll post where I'm going to be, and hopefully I can see some of you guys soon.
Well, I hope I get to see you, April. When you're coming to Jersey, you're gonna let me know. And
that might come up, so we'll see.
Good, awesome. This is great. Thank you so much for doing this, not once but twice.
Yeah.
And it's great talking to you again, April. Thank you.
No problem, Mike. Anytime. And if you guys want to check it out, I will post. If Mike and I ever do meet in Jersey, we'll have social media too when that day comes. So thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.